In an extraordinary and shocking turn of events that sent shockwaves through Parliament and angered citizens across South Africa, Gwede Mantashe, one of the African National Congress's (ANC) most powerful and resilient figures, was officially stripped of his parliamentary seat. The decision followed his dramatic overseas arrest on charges linked to global corruption, large-scale financial fraud, and abuse of power. What stunned many even more was that President Cyril Ramaphosa personally approved the decision, signaling a dramatic shift in how the government intends to handle corruption at the highest levels of power. Witnesses inside Parliament described the scene as chaotic, emotional, and unlike anything they had ever seen before. For years, Mantashe had stood as a formidable presence within the ANC, a man who met every allegation of misconduct with defiance and an unshakable aura of invincibility. He had survived countless scandals, emerging each time with his political authority seemingly untouched. But when the final moment came, that unbreakable confidence vanished. Confronted by the weight of the accusations, his usual composure deserted him. For the first time in his long career, the once indomitable politician broke down in tears as he was ordered to vacate his seat. Gone was the commanding, authoritative minister the public had known. In his place stood a visibly shaken, humiliated man, silent and trembling before the nation. What makes this case especially remarkable is that the legal process didn't even begin within South Africa's borders. The allegations originated abroad, where investigators spent years weaving together a sophisticated network of evidence. According to reports, an international financial crimes tribunal issued the arrest warrant, supported by documentation gathered across multiple continents. The charges were staggering. Mantashe was accused of being entangled in vast networks of international energy corporations, offshore bank accounts hidden from authorities, and dubious diplomatic dealings hinting at deeper layers of influence peddling. Prosecutors alleged that he orchestrated or approved multi-million rand bribes, laundered state funds, and funneled foreign contracts through shell companies. Documents reportedly linked him to questionable deals signed during his tenure as Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. The global scope of the investigation made the scandal even more explosive. This was not a case built by one country alone. Instead, it was the result of a joint effort by European financial watchdogs, African Union legal task forces, and international anti-corruption agencies. For South Africans, this controversy has expanded far beyond domestic politics. It has become an international indictment with far-reaching diplomatic consequences. Perhaps most shocking of all was President Ramaphosa's decision not to shield Mantashe. Insiders revealed that the president insisted on his removal to preserve South Africa's global image and reaffirm his administration's commitment to transparency over loyalty to an old comrade. For some observers, Ramaphosa's action represented bold leadership, a chance to re-establish moral integrity within a government long scarred by scandal. To others within the ANC, however, it was viewed as betrayal, a deep wound in a party once defined by unbreakable solidarity among its senior members. Mantashe and Ramaphosa had shared a long political journey, often standing together as the public face of the ANC and the nation. Their bond once seemed unshakable, but mounting global pressure, economic decline, and growing public disillusionment left Ramaphosa with no choice. Analysts now say this decision could define his presidency. If it ushers in a wave of reform and further arrests, he may be remembered as the president who finally faced corruption head-on. But if the ANC fractures under the weight of scandal and internal conflict, it could consume him as well. Eyewitnesses in Parliament described the day as one of unprecedented tension. Mantashe entered with the same self-assured demeanor that had helped him survive previous controversies, even displaying flashes of defiance. Yet, as officials read the legal documents confirming his arrest and lawmakers prepared to vote on his removal, that confidence crumbled. In a desperate final attempt to salvage his reputation, Mantashe pleaded with his ANC colleagues, reminding them of his years of service and loyalty. His emotional appeal fell flat. The assembly remained unmoved. Cameras captured every detail: his tear-streaked face, trembling hands, and the slow, somber walk as he was escorted out of the House of Assembly. The reactions among fellow MPs spoke volumes. Some sat in stunned silence, refusing to meet his gaze. Others looked away, unwilling to witness the downfall of a man they had once admired. A few quietly applauded, relieved that one of the party's most divisive figures was finally being held accountable. Yet beyond the personal humiliation, the symbolism was profound. This was not just a man losing his seat, it was the collapse of an empire built on power and immunity. The implications for the ANC are enormous. With Mantashe gone, and Ramaphosa publicly acknowledging his complicity by allowing the dismissal, the question now looms: who will fall next? How far up the hierarchy does the rot go, and how long before the party itself begins to fracture? For decades, corruption allegations against the ANC were brushed aside as politically motivated attacks. But with foreign investigators now stepping in, denial is no longer an option. The fact that Mantashe's arrest occurred outside South Africa raises uncomfortable questions about the country's own justice system. Why did international authorities have to act first? Why were domestic agencies unwilling or unable to pursue one of their most powerful leaders? Beyond national embarrassment, this development presents serious diplomatic consequences. Foreign governments are watching closely. Several have begun demanding clear reforms and greater transparency before resuming trade, investment, or aid partnerships. What was once treated as diplomatic courtesy has now become a test of credibility. Should additional ANC figures face similar charges, South Africa risks sliding toward international isolation. Already, whispers in diplomatic circles suggest that global partners are quietly reconsidering their ties with Pretoria. Economists warn of grim fallout, capital flight, a weakening currency, and rising unemployment. For ordinary South Africans, who have endured years of economic struggle, the fear is that once again, the public will pay the price for the greed of the elite. Across Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban, citizens expressed a mix of outrage and relief, fury at being deceived by those in power, but satisfaction that one of the untouchables was finally held accountable. Civil society groups have wasted no time organizing marches, protests, and public forums. The South African Council of Churches and legal advocacy networks are calling for deep institutional reform to ensure such abuses of power never happen again. Their message is clear: this moment must not be wasted.